All right, here's our second video for section 9.1. We're going to continue talking about conversions of length. In our first video, we talked about how to convert within the English system, inches, feet, miles, yards. And then we also talked about how to convert within the metric system. Remember, King Henry died Monday drinking chocolate milk? Now, we're going to talk about converting between the two, from the English to metric or metric to English. You can see up here a couple of different conversions from the English units to metric units or vice versa. We're going to actually use these, and these should be on your formula sheet, so make sure you have that ready. You can find those when you're taking your test and doing your homework. We're going to convert back and forth between the different systems. So let's do a few examples here. In example number 3, it asks us to convert 8 inches into centimeters. We're going to start with 8 inches. And we're going to use our dimensional analysis that we learned in this first video to get out of inches and into centimeters. So if I want to get out of inches, remember inches have to be on the bottom of my fraction so that the inches on the numerator and the inches in the denominator cancel. I'm left now with centimeters, which is what I want. Now I just have to figure out what numbers go in my unit fraction. So using the chart up above, how many inches are there and how many centimeters are there? What's the conversion factor there? Well, from our chart, for every 2.54 centimeters, there is 1 inch. I'm going to multiply and reduce these fractions, and I end up getting 20.32 centimeters. There are 20.32 centimeters in 8 inches. All right, look at B. B says we have 125 miles, and we want to convert that to kilometers. I'm going to start with 125 miles. I'm going to use dimensional analysis and a unit fraction to get out of miles and into kilometers. I'm going to use my chart to figure out how many kilometers there are for every mile. And I ended up getting 1.6 kilometers for every 1 mile. I'm going to multiply 125 by 1.6, and I end up getting 125 miles is really the same thing as 200 kilometers. All right, C says we have 26,800 millimeters, and we want to convert that to inches. Millimeters to inches. But when I go up to my chart, I didn't see anything that has millimeters to inches, did you? So we might have to do a couple different conversions before we can get all the way to inches. So what do we have here? Well, I noticed that we have centimeters to inches. So is there a way I can go from millimeters to centimeters first? And then from centimeters into inches. Well, do you remember our last video? We were able to convert within the metric system and go from millimeters to centimeters by using that silly saying, King Henry died Monday drinking chocolate milk. Well, if I'm in millimeters and I want to get into centimeters, doesn't that just mean I have to move my decimal place over once? And so I can go from 26,800 millimeters to 2,680 centimeters by moving my decimal and using that saying, right? Dividing by 10. And so now that I'm in centimeters, I should be able to use dimensional analysis and my unit fraction to get out of centimeters now and into inches, which is what I wanted, right? And so I want centimeters to be on the bottom. I want inches to be on the top. I need to go back to my chart and figure out how many centimeters there are for every 1 inch, and I got 2.54. And so my unit fraction looks like this. I'm now going to take the 2,680 and divide it by 2.54, and I ended up getting 1,055.12 inches. There are 1,055.12 inches for every 26,800 millimeters. So you might have to do a couple of different conversions sometimes, maybe within the metric system and then from the metric system to the English system. You can do a couple of different conversions, but be careful to stay very organized and neat and show me all your work so I know how you got from one step to the other, okay? All right, let's do a couple more. Here's example number 4. We have A and B. It says here the speed limit on many highways in the United States is 55 miles per hour. That might be a little bit old. I think they've increased that, but how many kilometers per hour is this? So if you're coming from another country, you're used to seeing kilometers per hour, not miles per hour. So you might need to convert it into kilometers per hour so it makes sense to you. So let's start off with the 55 miles per hour. And so I've written it as a unit fraction, or not a unit fraction, but a fraction. There are 55 miles per 1 hour. And so what I want to end with is kilometers per hour. I really want kilometers to be in the numerator and hours to be in the denominator. So my final answer is in kilometers per hour. So I want to get rid of miles. I want to put the miles on the bottom. And I want to convert it into kilometers. The miles should cancel, and then you're left with kilometers per hour, which is what you want your final answer to be in. And so I can figure out from using my chart up above that there are 1.6 kilometers for every mile. So now I can take my 55, multiply it by 1.6, and I end up getting that 55 miles per hour is really the same thing as 88 kilometers per hour. And so then I can have a better understanding of how fast that really is if I'm more used to the metric system versus the English system. All right, part B says, if a high-speed train in Japan is capable of traveling 200 kilometers per hour, how many miles per hour is this? Well, here in the United States, we're more used to our English system. So 200 kilometers per hour might not make sense to most of us. And so we might have to convert it into miles per hour because then it'll make more sense because that's what we're most used to. So let's take that 200 kilometers per hour. Let's write it as a fraction. We have 200 kilometers per every 1 hour. And let's get out of kilometers and put it into miles per hour. So I still want my hours to be on the bottom, but I want miles to end up on the top. So it's miles per hour. I want to get rid of kilometers, so I want to put that in my denominator. I'm going to use the unit fraction. For every 1 mile, there's 1.6 kilometers. My kilometers will cancel, and I'd be left with miles per hour. I'm going to go ahead and take the 200 now and divide it by 1.6, and you should end up getting 125 miles per hour. So 200 kilometers per hour is really the same thing as 125 miles per hour. And so now I have a better understanding of how fast this train's actually going because I'm more comfortable with miles per hour. Make sure you know how to convert back and forth within each system and then from one system to the other. Hopefully you have your formula sheet out next to you and you're comfortable finding all of those different conversions so you know where they're at come test time, okay? All right, that was our first section in Chapter 9. Let me know if you guys need anything.